on to our weekly Facebook live show, Life Buildup, where we discuss your success, fulfillment, and balance. I'm your host, Jawad, here with Hasan. Here, although in Texas, guys. Hassan's still in New York. I'm here for a program for 2 weeks. And, I'll be back in New York next week, hopefully. And Hassan's here in New York. So, guys, this week we're talking about emotional intelligence. I'm here in this program, and one of the instructors was talking about this topic in class today. And I thought this would be a great episode to have, for our show. And Hasan here, obviously him being in the field of psychology, he's kind of like the subject expert in this. So let's get right into it, bro.
Hey, what's up, guys? Really glad to be here. As always, if you're just tuning in, please share the video, give us a like, because as people are rolling in, as you share, obviously more people will be able to know that show has started. And if you are listening to this afterwards on our iTunes, on Facebook afterwards, we welcome you as well. So today we're talking about emotional intelligence. So what in the world? This is like one of those keywords, right? Everyone talks about emotional intelligence.
I think it became like popular in the recent times, right?
It did. Yeah. I mean, so if I ask you, right? So you're someone that might not have studied emotional intelligence like I have, but what comes to your mind, Jawad? I mean, when you think about emotional intelligence, like what
I know. Like I think, IQ is one thing that I heard my whole life.
Right. Yeah.
Ever since I was young, and that referred to how intelligent you are when it comes to solving different problems, or how sharp your brain is and so forth.
That's right.
Emotional intelligence, I think is people skills, and also also your skills when it comes to are you able to be self-aware?
Right.
Are you able to if you become in a heightened emotional state, are you able to control that state?
Right. So yeah,
that's what comes to my mind.
No, I mean it's one of those buzzwords, especially in this 2017 going to 2018. We all know IQ, emotional intelligence, right? So how intelligent you are, how smart you are, which is very bad translation, by the way, very bad way to look at it. So they would say, okay, even intelligence, there are different factors, right? So one intelligence is how well do you recall information, right? You remember stuff. And then another intelligence is how well do you process stuff. Another one is short-term memory. Another one is spatial memory, right? Same way, there's the emotional part of you, right? So in simple definition is, how aware are you and how much are you able to manage your own emotions and someone else's emotions? That's essentially it. And my argument is that, and this is the argument of those who promote emotional intelligence, is that ultimately beyond our intellect, we are emotional beings. We make most of our decisions, as much as we think we are rational people, we make most of our decisions with emotions. And so many times, recognizing someone's emotion, understanding your own emotions are at the core of being able to have impact at work, being able to build a better relationship with your loved ones, even just in your business with your customers, every angle.
Because we're always, I think it's because we're always interacting with people.
Yes.
And I think especially the instructor today in class, he was actually mentioning that millions of dollars is poured into this, like in the corporate world.
Oh, yes.
To train their employees and also for leadership on this topic, and on this skill.
That's true. I mean, corporates have training on this. I know big hospital. One of my friend, he's very at a senior level at a hospital, and they have corporate trainings that everyone has to go through, because they realize that they're serving people, and people ultimately are emotional beings, right? So you being able to manage your emotions, understand your own emotions, and then being able to manage someone else's emotion, understand their emotions, is just that much powerful.
So I think we defined it pretty well. So it's it's exactly what you said. So I think what you mentioned is understanding your own emotions, and also understanding other people's emotions and being able to manage it.
Yeah. So now there are basically 4 areas. All right. So this is the 4 key areas of emotional intelligence. a lot of people define a lot of different ways. Okay, this
Mm-hmm.
is my own understanding of it. Now, obviously, if you read, there are some famous books on this emotional intelligence, and so, but by
Can you
many.
give some of the book names?
Sure. What we'll do is there are a bunch of books. So what I will do is maybe after the show we can write it on the
Yeah,
chat.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So I'll give the exact titles and so people who want to look it up. And of course, you could go online, plenty of resources there. But
Yeah, guys,
yeah,
just before we continue though,
yeah,
those of you guys who are joining us, first of all, thank you so much for your time. Really, really appreciate it.
yeah,
As you guys know, this is a weekly live show that we have every Monday night at 10 p.m. I'm here in Texas,
right,
Hasan's in New York, but guys, show must go on.
right,
We love this, time that we get to spend with you guys every week,
absolutely, yeah,
and we appreciate the time that you give
we
us.
do.
So yeah, absolutely.
And it just I always say this every week. It's it's really we love it that you make us part of your life every Monday night, and really we hope that we really strive and I know Jawad as well, that we want to make sure that this show and the content that we provide is top notch, that is practical, and that has practical impact tomorrow in your personal life, in your professional life. So that's our
Yeah.
focus. And if you have any feedback for us, any way we can make this even better for you, definitely reach out to us. So four areas that I feel is are the most prime when it comes to emotional intelligence. Like, again, a lot of people define a lot of different ways. Don't go and say, oh, you guys said it this way. Other people, there are a lot of people who are defining this, right?
Mhm.
Even emotional intelligence. I mean,
Right.
that a lot of people define a lot of different ways. So the even your intellectual and IQ. So emotional intelligence, four basic areas. Number one is recognizing yourself, so self awareness, right? Recognizing your emotions, recognizing who you are.
Mhm.
Part two is, once you did that though, then also managing your emotions. So managing your feelings, your anger, your happiness, managing those things, right?
Right.
Reducing bad emotions, increasing good emotions, right? And then then comes the second part, which is other people. So recognizing other people's emotions, so being able to read other people's, that are they happy, are they sad, are they angry, are they frustrated, being able to recognize that, and also who they are, where they come from, being able to be aware of people. And then the fourth area is managing their emotions, and
Mhm.
that essentially comes down to communication, right? So the fourth part is basically about communication, listening, speaking, negotiation, all that. So I think what Jad and I want to do
So that
tonight,
kind
yeah,
of that
yeah,
so I guess that kind of summarizes the that's the outline, okay, for
outline,
the
yeah,
entire topic of emotional intelligence.
for sure, for sure. And today, obviously, we're not talking about the whole entire. And there are books and theses and research on this. We're not going to cover it in 25 minutes. But what we wanted to really focus on today was self-awareness, which is the first key area of emotional intelligence. You know,
Right.
so being self-aware of yourself, and I like to say that has two parts. Number one, being aware of who you are as a person. It's just about recognizing emotion. That's good. That's obviously what we're going to talk about when we talk emotional intelligence. Being aware of your own feelings, but beyond that, even being aware of yourself. You know,
Right. Right.
um, I'm so because a lot of times if you're not aware of who you are, it has an impact when you interact with the world.
Mhm.
Because you're not true to yourself, you're not honest with yourself, and so really it comes down to
Well, where does strengths and weaknesses play into this?
Mhm.
Another place that I hear, another person I hear that talk a lot about this
Right,
is my man Gary Vee.
right, yeah, yeah,
Me being in the business world,
yeah,
I listen to
yes,
and consume some of his content,
yeah,
and he talks about self awareness is probably one of the most important things when it comes to in the in the business world,
right,
which is basically understanding what you're good at, understanding what you're bad at,
right,
you know.
and knowing
Um,
yourself, and stop faking knowing who you really are. Yeah,
Right, right. I think, yeah, what you said right there,
yeah,
faking it. A
right,
lot of people, they look at, okay, where they want to, what is it that they want to be, and they put that as the face.
mm.
But actually in reality, they're not good at that thing, or they're not really happy about that. So do you think that kind of goes into self-awareness?
Yeah, absolutely. You got to be very honest with and off the bat. Let me tell you uh, how I look at self awareness. Maybe you're not going to find this in a book or in Google.com when you Google it, but from my understanding, from my experience working with various different people, all different ages, and having done some reading on this, I find there are different levels of self-awareness.
Mm.
So the first tier is just being aware of your outer, right? So how what kind of dress you wear, what kind of image you put up, things that we hold on to, material things, cars, lifestyle, what we put out on social media, Instagram. These are all part of who we project ourselves to be. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's, I think, level one, right? And a lot of people get stuck on level one. Just getting stuck on, just putting up an image. Their cars speak, and people, companies even promote this.
So basically, like, their material objects speaks for who they are.
Right.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, if you have ads, right, that would say, they'll show an ad of a
Let
watch.
your watch there
speak
you go.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
They would say, let your watch speak for you, or let your cars. What does that even mean? Like, let a inanimate object speak for you. Like, do you really think about that concept? How shallow, how low that is. Now, if someone loves good stuff, I'm not judging them. You know what I'm saying? You like good stuff, good for you. I'd like it too. But I'm saying is, at the end of the day, you gotta be aware that what are you covering? What are you trying to put out? And people live a fake world, and in Latin word, for persona, right? You put up a mask, right? We all walk around with a mask, right? And I think people oftentimes, they're so scared of who they really are, and being able to project themselves and show their true who they are. So I like to tell people,
I think people are afraid of, like, being themselves, like, because they're. And do you think that's like rooted in low self-esteem?
It is actually part of it is, so I like to say there are two areas, right? So that either is either is pride or show off. Pride or show off usually holds you back from having self-awareness, right? So show off is the classical, right? You put up an image on social media, put up an image on Instagram, put up an image of who you are, and sometimes that's not even you. You know what I mean? Like you show the most filtered, picture perfect version of you, right?
Right.
So the question I like to ask is, will people accept you for your flaws? It's a hard question. If people really knew what you are about,
because on social media we don't put up our flaws.
No, we don't. Yeah, of course.
That's not who we really are.
Right. So, and like, don't get me wrong. Some people do. Some people, they have one of those posts. They call it, "Oh, I just want to be upfront about this," right? like every other YouTube celebrity has this. Right? Guys, today I know it's gonna be a funny video. I just want to say that my dog died. Whatever. I mean, like, people come out like that. But even then, they're doing it for.
I think like, and that's a perfect example that you brought up.
Right.
Because, like, for YouTubers, like for example, for a lot of us who are not, like, making money off YouTube and making living off YouTube, we could just go about our day outside of social media and live our actual life, what it is. But for YouTubers, they live in that world.
They do, and that's okay.
But the thing is that at one point, like, when they actually show, like, okay, this is what I'm actually going through. Like, a lot of YouTubers, they come out and say that, like, I'm going through depression. I've been making videos. Okay, I make it seem like I'm really, really happy, but I'm really, really not.
Or the couples, the classic example of the couples.
Oh yeah, couples make it look like everything is going fantastic, but in reality, their relationship, like, they have fights, which is not on camera.
Right.
And so
which is more normal of a relationship.
Right. So, bro, remind me, how did we come to YouTubers and putting up fake images and so forth?
Right.
How does this relate back to emotional intelligence?
So it's about
self-awareness.
Sure. So we're talking about self-awareness and being aware of yourself. And when you don't take the time to think about yourself, and because of your insecurity, because of your show off or pride, that holds you back from get in touch with your true self and not able to be vulnerable and show your true self.
So this is something basically that stops you from being self-aware?
Absolutely.
I see.
So I like to tell people, you got to be comfortable, in your own skin. Now, don't get me wrong. This is the whole thing about, oh yeah, I want to be different. Oh, there's two kind, right? So you have one kind that's like, I'm trying to be different. I'm trying to be on my own person. And you realize you're just in a suburb. You're rebelling like every other kid. And you're doing the same old. So in your trying to be different, you're being like everybody else. So I'm not talking about those clowns, okay? Classic kids in suburbs. Also, I'm not talking about those clowns who are unwilling to change themselves, to improve themselves. oh, this is not how I am. I work with some criminals, in my drug and alcohol rehab, and some people come and tell me, look, this is my life. That's all I know. Like, I'm like this. I can't change. And I'm like, that's not true. You know, you were like this, right? I tell people that, because I work with people who come out of jail and so forth, and sometimes they tell me like, I'm like, you being criminal is not a tattoo that you can't get rid of. You did criminal activity, but you're not a criminal. But like, I can't rub off being Bengali, right? I can't rub that off, But
You wish you could?
no, I don't. I love my
I'm just
roots.
joking, man. I'm just joking.
But you doing criminal activity, or you're saying, oh, I'm not that good. I'm not that good at talking to people. Oh, I'm not that. I'm not talking about that stuff, but I'm talking about being aware of yourself, accepting your flaws. Even I would go as far as say your physical flaws. We all have some physical in a part of our body that we don't like, right? Or we think our nose or this or that part, but you got to be comfortable with who you are. You know what? That's me. You know. Anyways, so that's the tier 1 level. You know what I'm saying? After that, it comes your awareness of your, I would say personality, right? So your strength and weakness. Yeah. So how do you figure that out, right? People go to corporate world. People start doing business. People start to, take these inventories that tell you strength, the weakness. You're extrovert, you're introvert. You are logical. You are emotional. You are a more thinking person. So those are good. So especially kids who go to college or they have some vocational training, they learn this stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like what they're good at, what they're not good at. But I still think that's level 2. So, what you're good at, what you're not good at, your strength, weakness, your math skills versus science skills. I think that's a tier 2 level. You know
So
what I mean?
tier 1 was, once you strip away all your, cars and watches and shoes,
Right.
all of that,
Yeah.
then, so that was tier 1. So once you
So
strip that away, who are you?
then you move on to a second tier.
So emotional intelligence, like, I'm sorry, self-awareness. So
Yes.
it's really, our goal is to figure out who are we really?
Right.
Is that the goal?
Not even who are we real. You're not gonna get to a point where you're like, oh yes, that's me. It's more about, I like to say it's like the orange peel, shedding the layers. It's really about shedding. Oh, sorry, not orange. I would say the better example would be onion. So yeah, it's shedding the.
Got more layers.
Got more layers. Yeah. So shedding the layers. That's what it comes down to. So getting deeper and deeper, and it's a lifelong achievement. It's not like you're gonna get to a point where I'm now self-aware. That's not how it works. It's about continuous awareness of yourself.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's why level 2, I would say, is when you get to a level where you not know your strength, your weaknesses, your mistakes in the past that you can acknowledge and accept. That I would say is level 2. Then I would say,
is there level 3 and 4?
Oh yes, I'll get to it. So level 3, I would say, then having some really deep awareness of your past. So knowing how your childhood, your upbringing, how that impacted.
Are you gonna hit me with some psychoanalysis stuff right now?
No, I mean, I know a lot of people, hate on Freud and stuff. And look, a lot of his stuff was theory, but he started a trend, right, of this entire, psychoanalytic, psychodynamic. There's a lot of truth to that, right?
Can you share some of that? Like, how, like, I mean, Freud's thing is basically like, whatever happens in your childhood that has an impact on you later on in your life. Correct?
Sure. I mean, that's one way to put it. That is a little more in depth than that. He has some theories. Then the Neo-Freudians, and then people who did psychodynamic, they're a little different. Psychodynamic,
So tell me, like, how exactly, like, this
sure. So instead
of
getting into your college 101 psych class, let me give you some practical way to look at this, right?
Sure.
So practical would be, okay, if you are in a family where your parents fought, and they're constant argument, you grew up watching your parents fight, right? You as a child now, that's a scary thing, right? You saw your parents fighting right in front of you. You're a little boy, you get scared. Little girl, you're scared. That has an impact how you feel about relationship, violence, how you think about risks, all that. As a child, did your parents accept you, right? Or did they say, look at your older sister. She looks better. Or I know people have said that to some of their kids. That has an impact. Or did your parents allow you to explore?
So what kind of impact does it have? Like,
So then you grow up and you think that you're not good enough. Very simple. Or something like your parents let you explore life. So you're a child and your parents are super protective, right? You took a step in the living room, like, oh, don't touch that, oh, don't go there, oh. And then you grow up thinking.
And then you're afraid to take risk.
Yes, you're afraid to take risk in life. Like, oh, the world is too scary. Or if your parents didn't take your opinion on things, so you're a child or a teenager even, and
I think this is like so important for parents to know. When
yes,
they're bringing up their children,
yeah,
especially in the early years.
yes, yes,
Like what you said about the risk, the
right,
risk aspect of it.
right,
Like like everything in life, you have to take risk,
right.
right? And wow, that's amazing, man.
Yeah, I mean,
I
if
mean,
if you had parents growing up who basically like sheltered you till you were like 14, they still fed you, or they put all kind of safety nets all over the house. You couldn't, if he didn't allow you to break something, like you actually didn't learn how to make mistakes,
yeah.
because parents made sure you never break anything. You're like on a schedule, on a routine. Then you don't grow up a healthy, fulfilled child, and so you're not stuck. When I'm saying this stuff though, is you're
Yeah,
watching this.
so yeah, I think like right now, we're not kids anymore. We're
Right? Yes,
already grown adults.
adults. Yeah.
So, and if we have a problem, like something happened to us in our childhood, how do we
Right.
fix it?
Right. So the point is, you are not your history. I think that's something people need to know. Through education, through development, through mentorship, you can change, and
So
that's
it's
the
not
big.
permanent.
It's not permanent. It's not permanent. Now it has an impact for sure, and part of self awareness is recognizing the impact though. So you have to be able to be honest and recognize that impact. But once you
Right.
recognize it, it doesn't mean you're stuck. Through education, through development, through mentorship, through new experiences, you can change. But understanding how those play impact, right? So even things like growing up, did your parents take your opinions on things, right? So did they did your parents as a teenager, did they say, oh, what do you guys think, this is what we decided as a family, and did they allow you to have those opinions? So you grew up thinking, what, I have opinions on things, you know
Right. Right.
or also you grew up thinking that, what, people dictate things to me, and so you're less confident about your decision making.
So, I think like, practically like, emotional, we're talking about, self-awareness, which is
Yeah,
part of emotional intelligence.
yeah,
So how do you actually like, pick up on those things? Like, do you just reflect? I mean, this is great to know. I think like, everybody that's watching, will agree with what you're saying.
yes.
But, how do you actually like, pick up on, okay, what are the things that happened in my childhood? That's, do you go asking your mom or?
So, no, so one of the ways you could do this is just exploration. Right? So you have to write your own autobiography. I say it's really healthy if everyone can write their own autobiography.
Or do you go see a therapist?
Well, no, I mean, you don't have to see a shrink or a coach, but you can. But if you had really difficult, you had lot going on in your childhood. But beyond that, just even self exploration, like writing journals, or even writing your own little autobiography. Just writing the part of you sitting down
I
writing.
think I think I think one thing like that and Gary Vee talks about this
Yeah.
is ask the people that are closest to you about what are like consistent patterns that they see in you, like how would they describe you in 3 words?
Right. That's true. That's true. And if you don't have someone, you put yourself in third bird eye perspective.
Yeah.
you know but doing that was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
And even things like your birth order, and like what are you oldest child, middle child, those things have an impact.
If your oldest child, what impact does it have?
You tend to be more responsible. You are in charge of the herd, right, in some sense. But the point is, we cannot give this to you in 25 minutes, but the point is, you need to be able to read and educate yourself on these things.
Right. Right.
We're just giving you the taste of it, but it's important. But the fact that you're listening to this, even, I think some of you are rethinking. And I'm
Yeah,
sure.
so I mean, obviously we cannot get into it like
Right,
very, very deep.
right, right.
But like this is just kind of touching the iceberg a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So
You mentioned
yeah,
you mentioned another fourth thing, right? Or so the third thing that was your childhood.
right.
So you're looking at like what exactly happened in your childhood and what kind of
Yeah,
impact that has
yeah,
in your life right now. You being aware of that is part of emotional intelligence and
yes, yes.
self-awareness. And you said there was a fourth level to it.
Yeah, I would even argue that the fourth level would be being aware of your spiritual self, right? A lot of people don't think about that, but that's I would say that's level 4, and for the highest, right? Which is being aware of your relationship with the divine, right? So if you're someone that believe in God, or you have some spirituality in you, being aware of the spiritual self, how you view life, how you connect with God, if you believe in God. and the relationship, with me personally, being able to be aware of, my shortcomings, and being able to look at the higher power. So those are I think.
So tell me, like, connect it for me, like, what exactly,
What are we talking about?
self-awareness.
Right. So no, say so. So yeah. So all this is part of being aware of different layers of yourself.
Right. So, oh, okay. So I guess what you're saying is, even your own relationship with God,
Right.
that has an, that also has to do with self-awareness.
Yes. Yes. And if you don't believe in God, even just your uh, own spirituality, I would say the spiritual self, you gotta be aware of that too.
Okay. I mean, if you don't believe in God, what kind of spiritual self is there?
So people, they believe in
Just a
doing,
higher power.
yeah, what we're doing good for humanity. They think about life as a whole and our place on the planet. So those are also important. How you view that, and how you sometimes you go too fast in life, and don't have time to explore those things.
Okay,
And
I
so
see.
so
So
now,
basically, like,
now I'm not
looking at what's your place in the
right,
world,
and
and
and I'm not necessarily saying to, because it will be a different topic if I said for you to explore spirituality. Here I'm saying look at your relationship of yourself with the spirituality. It's two different concepts though. Because if we did a whole show on, it's important to have a spiritual self, that's a whole different discussion. Here I'm
right, right,
talking about look at how you relate to spirituality.
right, and that's a level of emotional,
That's level of awareness, self-awareness.
self-awareness. Right,
Yeah,
right.
which is part
Okay.
of emotional intelligence,
Right.
right?
Can you just recap, like, I think, like, you went over a lot of content. Can you just recap,
Yeah.
like, what you said?
Sure. So far we've been talking about one aspect of emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness. And in self-awareness, we talked about what stops you, which is the projection of yourself, the pride, the show off. And then we said that there are different layers, like the onion. You peel different layers, and you get to know yourself. So from the level of your own, just what kind of physically with your things that you wear, from your watch to car to home, what you put out in the world to project who you want to be, and then peeling that layer off and getting into level of your strengths, your weaknesses. That's still level, level two. Then you get to level three, where you begin to be aware of your early upbringing, your childhood, and how that impacts you and who you are today, right? So that's the level three, and then you go for even beyond that, your spiritual self, and being aware of that side of you, your soul awareness, in some sense. So
So, like, do you think I'm sorry, self-awareness is, I think I mentioned it, like, earlier in the show, when it comes to low self-esteem,
yeah,
right? Do you think this is like one of the, kind of like the cure almost to low self-esteem? And
I would say, because, well, yes and
because
no.
I'm looking at it that, in the sense that, once you really discover who you are,
Yes,
right? I think it will help you become more confident and be more comfortable with, like,
yes,
who you truly are, right?
absolutely.
Because I think like, low self-esteem comes when you, like, start comparing yourself with other people,
Yes,
and you don't know who you are,
right,
and,
right.
then you're trying to, like, get something from somewhere else.
Right, exactly, absolutely. So you hit on the nail. There are other factors to it. Maybe one day we'll have a whole show on self esteem, or self beliefs. But this is definitely a big part of it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, before we continue the show, if you're just joining us here, I really, really appreciate your time. This is a weekly show that we have on every Monday night. If you're listening to us after the show is done, we really appreciate your time as well. Podcast listeners, thank you so much for giving us your ear. Really appreciate that. If you could please do me a favor and, hit the share button, hit the like button. Really, really appreciate it. Helps us get our word to more people, and that really helps us.
Absolutely, yeah.
Any final thoughts before we end up the show, or do you want to, like, kind of give us a
No,
little more content?
so that was all about just being aware of your self. Then comes to being aware of your own feelings. That's actually the bigger part. um, so I would say, that's not as difficult, to be honest. It's not as challenging. But so the first part of that is being aware of your triggers, right?
Okay.
So everyone has triggers, meaning certain things that ticks you off or makes you feel a certain way, or for you it's more difficult. And for this, really, there is no cure, simple cure. You have to take self inventory. What that means is, in simple terms, is that you have to get used to. You have no idea how much journaling is so helpful. So whether it be audio journaling, meaning you just talk to a record on your phone,
Voice
or
memos.
yeah, or even just writing. You just reflect on your whole day. You do this for a month, where every night you sort of reflect on your whole day. Think about the events and think about, okay, what impacted me, what didn't impact me, why did I react that way, why did I did not react that way, and we had a whole
So it's literally reflecting back.
yeah,
Just
yeah,
writing down like everything that happened in your day and reflecting back. Is that what you're saying?
yeah, reflecting, especially the part about what triggered you, right? So there's certain things that impact you in a certain way that doesn't for other
What do you
people.
mean by what triggered you? What do you mean by that?
Very simple example of anger, for example, we did a whole show on anger, right? And we talked about how, like, you can know your signs and symptoms of getting angry, and if certain people, when they say certain things, makes you ticked off, whereas someone else might not be as ticked off. You know what I mean? And that has a lot to do with your own self.
Right, right.
And you're not gonna know that unless you spend time reflecting. Why do they say that people who are older?
I mean, I think like, can you give us a little something more? Because when you say like you just have to reflect, you might get stuck in your reflection and you not figure out like what's going
Okay,
on. Is
and
there anything else you can do like to figure this
only
out?
way the only way is to study emotions. So you have to actually spend time, reading and studying our emotions. That's why we did a whole show on anger, right? So that we can
Right,
really
right.
explore this feeling.
I'm going to like those of you who are watching. Okay, I'm going to find that episode and I'll link it below so that you guys can check that out.
For sure,
That
yeah.
we go into more on really exploring anger and what is underneath our anger. So I think that's like
So
relates to this
yeah,
episode very very yeah, it relates to this like a particular episode like very very well.
and just like that, we have to study other emotions. And the more you study them, the more you recognize them, the more you will do this whole self-explanation business. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's really the only way. It's a trigger, and then I would say second part of it is in your inner thoughts. So your inner thoughts is also very fascinating. You have to be able to, we all have a speech that's running inside our head. Either you recognize it or you don't. And sometimes we don't stop. Especially we live in a very fast-paced world. We don't stop and think about, what are inner thoughts that are running. We have a script that's playing in our head, audio script. So one of the things I tell people, especially in my workshop, for example, I make people stop for like 2 minutes and do free writing. They just write whatever is coming to mind. Doesn't matter if they're embarrassed or they feel it's silly, whatever it is, they just keep writing.
I
Negative,
mean
positive.
that basically because I think so what's the point of that? What is the benefit of that?
You start to, if you do this long enough, you start to see a trend in your internal script, and that
Ah,
makes you a lot aware. Because we are actually thinking stuff, right? When we are
right, right.
when we are silent, there's some kind of speech that's happening inside our head, and it's very powerful to be able to recognize that speech. And
Because
sometimes
that speech, like, does it repeat over and over again?
repeat, sometimes we say certain things to ourselves, and you don't realize sometimes those are not even your own voices.
Mm,
Sometimes what people told you that you
right,
start to
right,
internalize. Sometimes it's stuff that you used to think about from childhood that you start repeating to yourself. you
right.
know and it's a very powerful exercise. You're not going to know it. Me telling you this right now, listen to me, you're not going to get it. You're going to have to do it to see it. Very simple. Take out 2 minutes, get to a silent place. That's actually one of my patients told me this. There's actually a place, if you're out of New York, I forget, I believe it's in the one of the art schools. They have a room where it's completely silent, meaning it's basically there's a zero sound room. Literally, you could hear, you go in there, there's
Can you take
no
your cell
sound.
phone in?
I'm not sure about that, but basically,
I'm pretty sure you can't.
well, take a pen and paper. But it's so silent. Apparently, you have to book timing to go in there. It's completely pin drop. You could actually hear your own breathing when you go in there. Imagine going in there and spending like 1 hour, and just they said that people go nuts after like 5-10 minutes.
Actually, dude, I saw a episode of on YouTube. It's called Vsauce.
Right?
And they did this experiment where,
Uh-huh.
the host, the show's host name is Michael. He
Right.
went inside a box and he
Right.
stayed there for 3 days.
A
It's like
box.
literally, yeah, white box.
Uh-huh.
I'm sorry, I said a box, a room. He
Right.
went
Right.
inside
Right.
a room, like he had his food, he had his like place for toilet,
Right.
and he stayed there for 3 nights. I'm sorry, 3 days and 3 nights. And
Wow.
they wanted to see like what kind of effect that would have. I
Right.
mean, it was like a psychological experiment and so
Right.
forth.
Right.
And it showed that our need for connecting with human beings and being in the sunlight and things like that. So yeah, completely separate tangent, but
Right. No. So I would say you need to, even 2 minutes. In my workshop, I make people stop for 2 minutes and just write. I said, writing, don't censor. Just keep writing. Whatever comes in your mind, just write, and you will see what starts to happen. Sometimes it's same repeating.
So takeaway for tonight, guys, is one of the ways that you can become more self-aware is journaling. So for 2 minutes, really just for 2 minutes, write down whatever comes to your head. Don't put any filters to it, even if it's embarrassing. Just write down.
And even if it sounds crazy, just write down. Obviously, make sure you don't keep it there. You throw it in the garbage. But
yeah, I remember that I actually tried to do this like back in college,
right?
Back in my like when I was getting my associates,
right.
And I did it like a couple of times, and then I got bored. Like I was like, I don't know what is the point of this.
Right. Well, so that's true. You're definitely gonna get bored, but we're not too used to just sitting with ourselves.
Right, but I did discover when I'm like remembering, I did remember that I had to kind of confront myself almost in the sense like get myself uncomfortable because there are things in my head that are coming up. I'm like these are not things I would say in my through my mouth, but these are just in my thoughts, and putting it down on paper kind of like help me understand that these are the things that are going through my head.
Yes.
And it just gave me more self-awareness.
Yes. And not that you're stuck with it. If it's something negative, you got to change it. You got to improve on it. But it begins by being aware first. You can't be afraid about it. And same goes with exploring how your early childhood impacted you. If you don't go to a coach or a shrink, whatever, but you still do it on your own, where you can just write about, okay, I was born here, and okay, this is how I felt as a child, and just writing about it is powerful.
Right. Okay. Give me just a second. I believe there's somebody asked a question.
Sure.
See if I can take that. The question was, there is no right or wrong except thinking it. We make meaning by becoming our actions.
Well, that's debatable, because we're not going to get into it. That's a philosophical question, right? So what is right, what is wrong? That's a age-old philosophical question. Obviously, I'm someone that believes in God, and I believe in.
He's talking about basically, there's no right or wrong, in your thinking, and we make meaning to it by our actions. I'm not sure what the question is asking.
Okay.
Maybe if you're still watching, if you could clarify.
If you there's two ways to look at that question, right? If the person meant it in a way that we make up stuff in our head, impacts it, for sure, I agree with you, right? So that when you think that something is negative or positive, or something is this way or that way, it does impact you, how you look at reality, right?
Right.
For sure. Just like you watch a movie and it's a scary movie and you get scared, it's not real. There are actresses, there are cameras, studio, but in the moment when you're engrossed in the movie, you feel it's real, right? You actually feel scared, even though it's not real. Same way we psych ourselves out like that, even in our life experiences. But that's one way to look. But the question is referring to right and wrong, because one of the philosophical position is that there is no right and wrong. Right and wrong is subjective, and that's definitely one opinion. I respect that. But again, this is not a show of philosophy. I don't want to get into any heated philosophical argument here. That's not our job. That's not our role. It's not a philosophy.
All right, let's bring it back. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm like lost in my head right now. So at first we talked about self-awareness.
Yes.
And you gave that you need to peel off the layers in order to kind of get to the core of who you really are.
Yes.
And one of the layers is materialism. Your car, your home, your watch, those things. Once you strip that away, I think you spoke about your childhood.
No, before that, that's number 3. Before that is your strength, your weaknesses. You ask people around you what you're good at and all that stuff. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Right. So you figure out your strengths and your weakness, and I think just people figuring that out.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good, my man Gary Vee, once again, he talks about this, once you figure out like your strength, doubling down on it and really, really focusing on that can, take your life to a really, really, good direction.
Sure.
Because you become an expert, in that area.
Right.
So knowing your strengths and weaknesses, being aware of it. You spoke about, childhood, how that, whatever happened in your childhood, how that impacts you, in your present life,
right.
at the moment. And the fourth one was, remind me again.
Even I would say you're being aware of your spiritual self.
Being aware of your spiritual self, like your relationship with.
This is all about, we're covering emotional intelligence, and we're just focusing on the first part of emotional intelligence today.
Right.
And that is self-awareness. and
Right.
several
And
has
then you spoke about like, triggers, like, the
yeah,
things that like, being aware of things
your
that triggers
feelings.
us.
Yeah.
Right.
So what triggers your certain feelings for you?
Right.
Then
Okay.
and then biggest thing is educating yourself on feelings itself.
Mhm.
That's
All
how
right.
you recognize them. Yeah.
I'm gonna end up the show today, bro.
Sure.
I think we've been going on for some time. For those of you guys who joined us, during the live broadcast, and also those of you who might be watching this, later on, really appreciate your time that you spend with us. I'm here in Dallas actually. Hassan's in New York, but like we said that, bro, we still have to make this show happen. Both of us here, we really, really like this time that we spend with you guys. Every Monday night at 10 p.m. and we really appreciate the time that you give us, and I hope you can continue to join us next week as well, and the week after that as well. Oh, by the way, next week is going to be New Year's 2018.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So we should have an exciting episode ready for you guys that day.
Do we have a guest on next episode?
It's going to be the week after. So we have a special guest for you guys. I'm not going to say who it is yet. I'm going to announce it probably in the next episode.
Sounds good. Alrighty.
All right, bro. I'll see you next week back to New York City. We'll be back to our regular setup. To everyone who joined us, thank you so much, and good night.
Good night.